Diagwit Shakarja is Anam Dum Clare Cunningham. You are listening to Business Side of Music. Garamahagat.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Here in the studio in Nashville, Tennessee, another episode of the business side of music. Sitting next to me, a dear friend, an occasional co-host.
That is correct.
And quite fetching looking today.
Well, thank you.
I guess I can say that and not be
absolutely
PC.
You can.
Okay.
It's technically a bad hair day, but, I'll take it.
Janet Utes is sitting next to me here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Always
a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And then sitting across the table. Now, I've said it correctly twice now before the show. Let's see if I can do it again, because now I really feel the pressure on me. From Ireland, County Louth. I did it.
County Louth.
Oh my gosh.
Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm. Clare Cunningham is joining us all the way from Ireland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So we've tried to get you on the show a couple times. First of all, you're an extremely busy person, and we understand that. And that's a good thing. It's a nice problem to have. One of the times was you got to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And what that experience was like. And then, of course, the other time we tried to get you onto the show, you just stopped talking.
Yeah, a rarity. only the enemy can stop me from talking.
Yeah, you lost your voice.
Yeah, severe laryngitis.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to.
And as you said, it wasn't just whispering. You literally couldn't talk.
There was zero. I had to go to the doctor actually because, I as much as I try and avoid modern medicine as best I can, I'm always like, my Lord will save me and heal me. And I had 7 or 8 days to go to the Opry show, and that was when it happened. And
so it was before the Opry. Oh my gosh.
So I had to cancel all interviews that I had coming up that week. And in the past, when I've lost my voice to that extremity, the only thing that can kind of get it back without, of course, resting is you can get a respiratory steroid shot. And it's like, even then, I still wasn't getting it. I was crying in the doctor's surgery, like, I have literally got the biggest show of my life coming up and I have no voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, but we got there, so we did it.
I was going to say, as someone who was in the audience, I would never have known. So let me tell you, she delivered.
Oh, well, thank you.
Let's go back to the very beginning of your life, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Musically, at least. We don't have to go back to the infancy stage. Yeah. But let's go back to the beginning. When did you really start to understand or have a concept that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was in my bones from very, very early on. I believe the first time somebody asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I think I was around 3, and I was like, I'm going to be a rock star. And that, like, obviously, I think when you're that age, there's something in you, like your Holy Spirit is like calling out, what it believes. And I truly, truly believe that. I just had that in me. I didn't want anything else. There really was nothing that, like, fueled my passion in life than music.
Being a doctor or a lawyer or an airline pilot, that just wasn't even on the radar.
Never leaned towards anything other than the music. Now, fitness and being into sport was a combination of what I did too, which has led me into like today. I'm still the same. My whole life revolves around me and my health, my fitness, and my music. Yeah.
An athletic type person, is there any particular sports you like to play? Or
well, I actually had this conversation earlier today. So they were asking, like, what sports did you do growing up? And we have our own football called Gaelic football,
right,
in Ireland, and so
which
I played
is totally
that.
different than the other footballs.
You're right, okay, because you've got soccer, you've got American football, you have Gaelic. Gaelic football is a combination of kind of rugby and American football, if it gives you any inclination as to what that might be like.
It sounds very physical.
It's very physical, yes. So I played that. I also played, there's a sport called camogie. It's hurling for men, camogie for women, and it's kind of like hockey in a way, if I could, also compare it. Played that. Then I was like track and field. I was a cross-country runner, played basketball.
Wow, I'm tired.
I mean,
yeah, I am too.
Yeah, well, we come from such a small place that like there really wasn't much else to, put your time or efforts into. And so sport growing up is actually a big thing. And we're, culturally, like, and then we did things like horse riding and different extracurricular things. But yeah, sport took up a major component of that.
The county that you grew up in, very small.
Yeah.
Where is that located?
Yeah, County Louth is the smallest of all the 32 counties in Ireland, and it's located just north of Dublin and south of Belfast. So it's the last county in Southern Ireland before you hit the border. So yeah. Growing
up as a kid and wanting to play music, who were your musical influences?
I had so many and a diverse amount of influences, but my two major ones were Garth Brooks and Michael Jackson. And I think everyone gets the Garth Brooks one for sure, but Michael Jackson, they're like, what? That's like kind of a strange...
Well, they're opposite ends of the spectrum, musical spectrum.
Absolutely.
But they're both superstars.
Both superstars, and both I think I leaned towards because of their musicality, their message, the lyrics of certain songs, like especially Michael, because he was all about equality and wanting to Heal the World is one of my favourite songs of all time. And then The River by Garth Brooks is like, come on, like, and even I know it was in a documentary, but the fact that I called my very first hamster Garth after Garth Brooks is enough.
Now, did you tell him that at the Opry?
I think he actually had found out, because when the host was asking me a few questions in the interview and he said, well, God has a funny sense of humour, they knew that Garth was there, and one of the...
But now you did not.
I didn't. Nobody knew.
Shall we
so
fill
Garth
in?
Brooks, yes, please.
Yeah.
So I'm there like so excited. Like if you heard someone screaming, that would have been me. And she looked so beautiful. She had on a beautiful emerald green, flowing, sparkly dress, and just did a marvelous job. I also want to give a shout out to the band that played as well.
Oh, yeah.
They were absolutely fabulous. I'm going to get it wrong.
Well, so I played do you mean with Steve Earle?
Okay.
Yeah, because
First of all, with Steve.
Yeah, and then when I played, it was just Jeremiah Willis. He's the son of Brenda Willis, who ran the entire Music City Fest, and he was on the uilleann pipes, and beautiful, right?
Beautiful,
like,
absolutely
insane.
beautiful. Well, this was a part of Irish Fest, and I'm so excited. Our city is looking at the different cultures because we are an international city now, and Southerners sometimes can be kind of funny about that because this is our home. And I thought it was a terrific idea and very welcoming. And I'm a big fan of Celtic music myself. But we did the regular Opry show. It was fabulous. And it was over at 9:00. And I go to the Opry often, and usually the curtain goes down immediately. And we're kind of shuffling around, kind of looking because the curtain is still up. And I thought, well, this is kind of odd. They let a few minutes go by and they said, sometimes we kind of do things differently at the Opry. We've thought about bringing out another act. They said, it's been International Women's Day this past week, and we'd like to show you a member of the Grand Ole Opry making her debut that we think is a modern woman that really represents International Women's Day. So it was a video of TRISHA YEARWOOD doing her Opry debut, singing She's in Love with the Boy.
Yeah, she's a boy.
Right, She's in Love with the Boy. So we're thinking, Trisha's going to be here. And they played the video. And, of course, everybody was hooping and hollering at that. And they said, well, we think that there might be somebody backstage with a guitar or something if y'all aren't in a hurry. And, I mean, Garth Brooks walked out. And you would have, I thought the ceiling was going to come off the place.
It was wild.
No idea.
Were you aware he was there?
Nope. I'll tell you when I knew. And you're so right. I've never heard a crowd
like
scream. So nobody knew. Lauren Elena, the last artist of the night, was aware. She didn't even tell her parents. The only people who knew were the staff. So I was in my dressing room because we were just doing some interviews and catching up with everybody in the dressing rooms. At around 8:45 or 8:40, I said, I'm going to just go back side stage and just watch Lauren's set. I went out and we're just standing there and watching her, and then somebody says, apparently don't leave because apparently there's going to be a surprise guest. And I thought, oh, okay. And I'm just standing there, and then I see this couple and I see the cowboy hat, and I'm like, nah. And then somebody says, it's Garth Brooks. And I was like, it's rare in life where I'm like, am I in a dream? Because I look over and I see him and I'm like, that's Garth Brooks. And the only reason why I was even more astounded was the fact that 3 months prior, on the 15th of December, I got a text message from Brenda Willis, who was running the Music Irish City Fest, and she said, here's a list of the Opry members. If you want to choose one, we can put in a request for you to play with an Opry member if it's, if we can try it.
Right.
And I said, well, I don't even have to look at the list, Garth Brooks. And I have the text message. I took a screenshot of it and I said, because he is my childhood idol. However, Steve Earle or Vince Gill would be cool too. And so here I am then getting to play with Steve, so 4 days before my debut, I thought it wasn't going to happen because I didn't get any, there was no selection made. I didn't, it was done. So I was like, oh, okay, well, now I'll get to just do 2 songs instead of 1 and 1. And then I get a message saying Steve Earle has, rejigged his schedule so he can be there, and he's invited you to play Galway Girl. And so I was like, sweet.
And you had teased this, that there would be a possible duet with an Opry member. Right. And I was looking every day to see who it was.
Same, because that was the whole plan initially, because they were like, there's always going to be an Opry member, but we're going to try and get it so that it's, it's something maybe on the Celtic. Right. And Garth Brooks, sure, I never thought in a million years, So when he's standing there, I thought, oh my good Lord, God is working in mysterious ways right now. But he had received, apparently, so when I put it in, they also put in the documentary that I was in Ireland for him. So they knew how special and how big it was. And I truly believe that's when the host said, God has a sense of humour. Now looking back on that interview, he probably knew, and I think that's why he said that.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about the documentary?
Yeah, so the Virgin TV, I think it was a different channel back home when I was growing up. They were doing a documentary on the life of Garth Brooks because he was coming to play a 5 sold-out show in Dublin. And so I had met one of the interviewers a year prior when I was playing at Johnny Cash's log cabin. And they're from Donegal in Ireland. And so when they were doing the documentary, one of them contacted me. And this is actually last May. And I unfortunately was going to be down at the BMI Songwriters Fest in Key West. And so he said, well, I'm only here from I think it was the 7th till the 12th. And I said, oh, they're exactly the dates I'm going to be out of town. Mm-hmm. But I was like, this is a big thing to get an interview for this. And so I rearranged my travel plans so that I would go a day later. And so we did the interview. They videoed part of a performance, and then we went in and we did the actual sit-down interview. But the only part of the interview that really made it was the fact that I called my hamster Garth. And I had no idea when it was going live on TV. So I was currently on stage months after that, before it was hitting the screens. It went out that night, and I was getting floods of messages, but I could just see a recurring theme like hamster and Garth. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? So they didn't tell me it had gone live.
Well, I'd say that was the right thing based on the current events and how that worked out for you at the Opry.
I mean, yeah.
I'd like to say one thing about the Garth sold out concerts. I watched some of the footage of that, and it was amazing. I could have closed my eyes and easily thought, Bob, that this would have been any stadium in the United States.
Yeah.
The worldwide appeal of some of our artists is nothing less than amazing to me. And when you look at the history, especially of country music, that's rather new.
Yeah,
I would say. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, do you all look at someone like Garth or Michael as an American music artist, or is that just a country artist or a mentor? How do you think about
me personally,
American
I don't
artists?
actually think of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never actually been asked that, and I've never even thought about that. But I guess because you're so used to growing up with artists like that, you don't even think of where they're from until perhaps they're speaking in an interview or something.
Sure.
And then you're like, oh yeah, they are from a different country.
It's interesting you say that, because I remember back in the day listening to the Hollies. Or listening to a lot of take the Beatles out of and the Stones out of the equation, because that's a given. But then you start listening to some of these acts, and musically, you don't really hear an accent.
You don't.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
But then the interview pops up, and they start talking, and you're going, "Oh, you're from England or Ireland," or it makes you pause for a moment to realize how worldwide music is.
Yes. And it's such it's the best communication skill we have. And it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Because regardless of your culture, your race, your accent, whatever it is, it's all kind of goes away when music
becomes the unifier.
It does.
In the studio with us here today, Jenna Utes, sitting next to me, the guest co-host. We seem to be doing that a little bit more these days, which is nice. Takes a lot of the load off of my shoulders. And then sitting across the table from us, from County Louth.
There you go.
God, Clare Cunningham.
Hey, this is Martin Martinick from Accept, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams, with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
Hey, this is Jack Sharkey, host of Between the Notes. Take a break from all the turmoil in the world and join us each week as we explore the magic, mystery, and beauty of music. Between the Notes, a podcast dedicated to everything music, available everywhere you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here, Nashville, Tennessee. Another episode of the business side of music. Sitting next to me, Jana Utes, and sitting across the podcast table. And you know what? I'm just not going to pronounce the county anymore because I've gotten it right.
You've got it.
I've gotten it correct every single
Gold
time.
stars.
Let's not screw that up anymore. It's Clare Cunningham.
I'm a student of music history, and I grew up in a household where very few musical influences were allowed. So I was seeking out and learning about international music on my own. And I would go and read a lot of times on the back of the album covers what my musical influences were listening to and how they had been actually influenced and the styles. And I was amazed at how many of them were not American, because I did not realize at that time. I was very, very green. So I think it's interesting that if you look at the history of music, that musical instruments and or the use of the human voice or music can also be a call to arms, or it can be divisive. So I was curious if you knew or wanted to comment on the fact that in the 1600s, the Celtic harp was actually outlawed.
Oh,
because it was the time period when the Irish people were thinking about revolting against the British crown. Henry, I think it was the 8th that come into power. And so one of the local politicians or leaders there in town, in order to try to squash any idea that the Irish would not, they outlawed the Celtic harps, because the harps a lot of times would be used as a call to arms. So when we talk about music being important,
I mean, yeah, it's the prevalence.
And they destroyed every harp they could get their hands on.
Yeah, you know what? I love learning about things, and now that's something new that I have
very
learned
interesting,
now today.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, the Bible talks about the importance of the harp, with King David and things like that. And I find that fascinating. But I'm very, very passionate about the fact that every people's group on earth will make music.
Yeah.
If they have nothing but stones and sticks, they're going to make music.
Well, we've talked about that too, and especially when we have someone from Ireland here, Celtic music, and how the slaves brought over the banjo,
Correct.
which a lot of people didn't know. We actually talked about this on another podcast show that I'm on called Between the Notes. And it's interesting how the slave trade brought a certain style of music to the nation, to the United States. And then the Irish, the Celts, and the Scots, as they settled in the Appalachians and picked up the banjo and other instruments, and how that all eventually just kind of immersed into, I guess, what we would call American music.
Yeah.
That is, when you think about it, go back, it took centuries, hundreds of years to get to that point to be able to create that music.
You know, it has, and I think it's why people feel so connected to it without realizing why. And also because a nation or a culture that's always suppressed or oppressed always have there's such heart and soul in that music. And you're right, because it does originate from slave music, basically. And it's beautiful how it's all combined in a way to give us what we have today. And I really believe that's why cultures such as Ireland or parts of Africa, parts of, different parts of the world and the Appalachian, a lot of people now, I can see way more of a connection with Appalachian music and the Celtic, and just there's just a soul. You cannot recreate that. That comes from generations of...
Well, you've got the power of the story. You've got the fact that you had the family was all they had. A lot of times these were sharecroppers, and the family they had to entertain themselves, and they were very close, and they all were handing down the stories from the generation to generation. I think it's fair to say that country music has been late to the party, giving other music its due. In America, we are very guilty of borrowing from other musical influences and really trying to claim it as our own, And I, for one, am very happy to see us opening up and welcoming and giving the due to the international artists and the people that actually shaped our particular genre of music.
I want to back up even a little further, because you mentioned two musical influences that really affected you growing up, and that, of course, was Michael Jackson and Garth Brooks. But Ireland has such a rich history.
Yeah.
Where do you start? You got the Cranberries.
Yeah,
of course, you got U2.
Of course.
You've got Van Morrison. You have Enya. You have Thin Lizzy. You have all of these great acts.
And I love all of them.
But yet you chose...
I know, I chose two Americans.
And you
it's
chose
funny,
two
right?
Americans that I've said earlier on opposite ends of the musical
Polar
spectrum.
opposites. And, well, the thing is as well, like I said, there's such a wide variety. They, Garth and Michael being my major ones. But funny enough, you say that. It's true. But we were very Americanized too. We get, like, John Denver was another. But, one of my favorite Irish artists, he is known but not as well known as some of the ones you've mentioned, is Christy Moore. He's most known for his cover of Ride On by Jimmy McCarthy, an old Irish poet and artist. But his songs, oh gosh, I love them. The Wolf Tones as well. Like, smaller Irish bands that didn't quite make it outside of Ireland were major influences on me as well.
Let's talk about you, because that's obviously why we have you in the studio today, is your songwriting that you do. How does that process come about for you? What's kind of that mindset, that concept for you to put a pen to paper and create a song?
Yeah, a good question. And it's changed over the years. I used to physically sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a song now. Or I would have a title and I would want to write a song. However, 2020 changed everything in the process of my writing. And I can only say that I became a true vessel and conduit to the message from my good Lord Saviour. Wildly, I know this sounds crazy, but I never sit down to write songs anymore. But when a song is coming, I know it's coming. And I feel this urge to either have to sit down or stop exactly what I'm doing. And these songs that I've written since 2020, none have taken me more than 15 or 20 minutes, some less. And I mean, they're full songs. And even when I've brought them to the studio before, in the past, they'd be like, well, maybe we need to change this. Maybe we need to do this, and they've just been like, these songs are really good.
So what are your songs about?
So my main topics are mental health awareness. So that encompasses any hurt, pain, but also the inspirational side. Personal songs, like things that, like, This Is Me was one of them, like, and just, what's on the outside does not match the inside. I've a whole album that's going to come out now before the summer called Helping Hand, and it's all faith-based, inspirational songs. And then my culture, so I sing a lot about Ireland. I've written my mom a song that was on my last record on Dear Ireland called No Place Like Home. So this time round, my father gets one. Your old Irish dad. He hasn't heard it yet, though. And so my culture, mental health and the Lord are my main kind of focus areas. I don't typically write for the sake of writing. I just... and then I have another one that's a pretty new one. It's called The Best You Can. And it's just like little golden nuggets, like tomorrow's not promised, the past can't be changed, live in the moment today, be the best that you can. And just like anything that he wants to give me, I just go with it.
Has your faith always been a central part of your art?
No, not at all. Because I grew up Catholic in a very organised feeling religion being the thing you had to go to church. You're in church, but you don't really know Christ. And with alongside the hypocrisy of everything that I kind of endured, and just the feeling, it was just not a nice feeling. I decided to just leave. I had enough. In fact, I completely had nothing to do with faith. I thought it was all bogus. I called his name in vain, and I went down a pathway that only I should have and could have gone down, but it was awful. Like, I've endured a lot. And so in 2020 was I know people think it's because of the pandemic, and it really wasn't, but it was the year, at the end of that year, I got...
Well, that's major.
Came back. Yeah, it is totally major, because it's transformed me as a person, but also my writing. And he taught me that, like, actually, no, Claire, you are okay at what you do. You're good. Like, I never liked what I wrote or released. I never was happy with anything, and he is the only thing that's really brought me through everything in life. And I've just dropped a 54-page memoir, I believe, on my website. I'm still kind of working on it, so I haven't really publicly announced it.
Is this going to be a book you're going to turn it into?
I would love to do a published book. I don't have the capacity in my schedule right now to get an actual book published, but it's in PDF form. People can go on my website, and if you want to read a hefty lot about my life and how I've overcome things, the one prevalent, similar concept that flows throughout it all is that I've sought out every kind of road, and nothing ever healed me the way he has.
If you don't mind me asking, is there one thing that sticks out in your mind that really gave you pause and you said, it's time to change my life? Because there's a lot of that in music that moves me.
Yeah. Well, the first time I had that was, I think I was around 27, and I'd been suffering from chronic anxiety since probably very early on childhood, and I just thought that was normal, the way I was behaving. And, years and years and years of that, it does become your norm. And the way I was living, and looking back now, I just, and there was a time where I didn't maybe want to see another day. And so that's why I advocate a lot for, like, suicide prevention. And it's where addictions came in. And I'm not talking about the prevalent, like, the normal, if you want to quote unquote normal addictions. Lots of different addictions.
There's lots of
and I actually speak a lot about that. Mm-hmm. But 27 years of age was when I first decided I actually do need help. I need to, like, start, like, bringing up what's been suppressed.
Would you say that pain is a gift?
I believe so. I believe fully in my heart that we have to all endure something in life. If we don't, we're never going to know what it's like the other side. And, like, I do believe we're never given any more than we can bear, because that's why I'm always very prevalent in saying, don't compare your story to another, because maybe something you've been through is way worse than I, and vice versa. And but we can only feel what we feel, and we can only experience what we experience. And I honestly, because I believe the Lord knew I was going to have a platform and it would progress into bigger platforms, that he has allowed me to go through a serious amount of things. And it wasn't until I started writing that memoir, which was never the plan, of course, he allowed it flow, that I realised, whoa, like, looking back now, how am I alive?
Well, you're no doubt you're a vessel.
Oh, and you know what? I think we all are to some degree, but whether you use it, I would love to hope that I do use the gift he has given me, that I can reach other people. And I would never say anything that I haven't gone through,
Sure.
And when I say that it's going to be okay, or there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or whatever cliche saying is there because it's true, I will only advocate for it because I've been through it myself.
Bob, you do this all the time. How often do you hear stories of artists, producers they've been to hell and back.
Hearing it a lot more lately in the last few years. Part of what we hear now is 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit.
Right.
Those were lost years. And people are like, I can't tell you what I did with my life. I can't tell you what I did in my life. All I know is I felt lost during that time. And what we're hearing now is so many people playing catch up and really trying to rediscover themselves. And I think, maybe the pandemic has something to do with it. But I think the forced nature of all of us having to stop.
Yeah.
And take a couple breaths. In fact, in many cases, take quite a few breaths because we couldn't do anything.
Right.
And outside of social media, we didn't have a lot of interaction. So it caused us to really start looking inside ourselves.
Yes, inward.
Yeah.
I've read a lot about the statistics of things that are going on post-COVID. I'm very alarmed at what the statistics say about young women. And I think it was set off partially by the fact that people were sitting at home and so focused on social media. But I'm aware that I believe it's the ages of like 9 to 17, suicide numbers are up like 70%. Would you mind speaking to that and why you think it's more prevalent in young ladies or women?
I especially with the young ladies, is because we're living a life through filters, and the new normal is to look a certain way and to act a certain way and to have certain things. And unfortunately, that's all done through a screen. And it's all smoke and mirrors, honestly, because, there's a pressure, I think, on females. And I think there always has been a pressure on females to look and act a certain way. Unfortunately, things, look at the porn industry, look at the magazines, the TV shows. It's this creation of what a woman should be and what she should look like is completely it's like night and day as to what it really actually is.
I think the industry that we're in pushes a double agenda. So I even as a person, that works, I'm not on stage in the industry, but I find it a struggle sometimes trying to figure out, where am I to be a woman and where am I to try to look a certain way or act a certain way? Where does my faith come in? And what's the median? And
you're right. I think it's a balance. And I think, I listen a lot to podcasts and I listen a lot to different people speaking on this, even like women in the workforce, like when they're said to be more emotional. And that is like almost like a negative. And it's funny because that's by nature. I think it's designed that way. And
life wouldn't be very fun if we were all like this guy.
Wait a minute.
He knows I'm teasing. We have a lot of fun. He and Debbie and I have a lot of fun.
I love that. But, I've never really had I'm a woman and I'm very much on advocating, but it's funny because I'm more leaning towards the male suicide aspect of things. And I think it's only because culturally growing up, Irish women are very boisterous and we're kind of fiery and we don't mind talking when we can. But men at home, unfortunately, have this. It's very taboo that you never talk about feelings and you never really show emotion. And so I saw that growing up and I experienced that. And it's why we have such a huge suicide rate amongst young males, especially. And so that my audience, I don't know why, but I've always felt more drawn to, and I'll empower women in one aspect, but I always feel for the males. And maybe it's because I never spoke and I was never emotional growing up really too much, and I was suppressed a little. We couldn't say what was going on. We came from too small of a place to allow that to happen. And then growing up, it was the same. I didn't want to show emotion. I was very more male orientated like that. I wasn't one to sit around a table and tell my feelings.
Sure. Do you have brothers?
Yeah, I've got 2 brothers and 1 sister. So, and I do. We come from a very traditional Irish. Women stay at home and do the cooking and the cleaning, and the men went out and worked.
That sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah. And it does exist here, of course.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for another one of our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to continue to have some more conversation with Clare Cunningham.
Hi there. This is Donovan White. You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the Business Side of Music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, sitting across the podcast table, Clare Cunningham from Ireland, but you're now a Nashville resident and have been for a while.
Yeah, been here when it rolls around to May 21st. I'll be here 5 years.
Wow.
Yes, I know. It's kind of crazy.
Big cultural change, of course, coming from Ireland to the United States and then come to Nashville, which is really kind of the honky-tonk capital of the world.
It definitely is. Definitely is.
Musically, what do you have going on right now? New projects, tour plans, all that good stuff?
Yep. So as aforementioned, I have an album. It'll be my first solo album. I've done albums and EPs in the past, but this is going to be a full album. It's called Helping Hand, and it's a lot of faith-based, inspirational material that I am mega excited about to get out to people, because this is really a combination of it, and it's all been songs since 2020, actually, even 2021 into 22, and into just current. Even some of the songs that are on there are just actually only months old. Got that, and then I'm going to also release a Celtic record.
Nice.
Another one. Yeah, it's time. And I have enough material for an EP. If I can get more, I'll do a full album. But there will be another Celtic.
I love that.
record,
Recording the Celtic project here in Nashville?
Yeah, so my home from home is over at RCA Studio C. So Eddie and Josie Productions, they're amazing. So Steve Cropper and the guys have the studio over there. And it's amazing. They are amazing. They understand me as an artist and understand the sound, and we've worked together now for years, so it's just
they're amazing people.
Yeah, they really are. It's beautiful souls, and I just feel so blessed. And that building as well has so much history.
It's got a lot of history.
Yeah.
Touring dates and performance dates coming up?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of festivals that are coming up. I actually am going to be doing my first headlining show at City Winery on April 30th.
Here in Nashville?
Yes. So that's always been one on the bucket list that I wanted to do. So luckily the Opry has opened up a few doors that were never opened. I know.
Was that a pleasant surprise for you from what the opportunities that afforded themselves from your performance at the Opry?
Oh, yeah. It's because I do all of my own I am my manager, booking agent, tour, whatever, you name it, all the hats.
So you literally wear all those hats at the same time?
I wear every single hat that is seen. So a lot of people, even when the Opry were like, well, if you could get our team to contact, and I'm like, you're talking to her, like, and they were like, what? You have nobody helping you? And I was like, it's not that I don't want to. I think people have this conception that I don't want help. I do. Desperately. It's just, it just hasn't come about. And also, I have learned how to do a lot, so I run my website. I answer all emails. I coincide and work logistics for podcasts. I'm touring agent. I'm, festival, whatever it is. I'm doing it, creating posters, answering people on socials. So it's a lot, but I'm very blessed that I have the capability of doing it. But honestly, the Opry was almost a melting point for me, because I was like, I don't know how much more I can do on my own at this point. But again, blessed. But yeah, lots of festivals coming up, a lot of Celtic festivals, a lot of singer-songwriter festivals all the way throughout the year. And like City Winery is coming up, and yeah.
Do you see yourself getting back to Europe to perform?
Hopefully, if certain vaccine rules get lifted, then I can.
Yeah, we don't take that into consideration sometimes.
I know, unfortunately, if I leave America, I wouldn't get back in on my current visa without a vaccine. And so it's, and it's just, and it actually, I think they're lifting it soon. But in any case, this is the year I have to reapply for everything again. I'm hopefully going for the green card. So I'm going to say it right now. To the heavens, please let a green card happen, because I want to stay here. America is home, but for sure I want to get back to Europe. Yeah, I haven't been back since like 2018 or 19, so it's been a while, and it'd be nice just to go back, see some fam, and maybe well, actually I did get offered an Irish tour, something I have not actually ever done, but because of the current situation, it's not feasible. But yeah, I'm up for it for sure.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
I believe so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I am a big component of that. So,
how can people find Clare Cunningham other than going to County Louth?
Yeah, you'll find her family there. I would say the easiest place is my website, and I've made it very user-friendly for everyone. So it's www.
I got on it, so it had to have been been user-friendly.
I'm glad. It's my full name, so www.clarecunningham, ClareCunningham.music.com. And yeah, all the links for any of my socials and upcoming tours and different things like that are on there.
Can they get music there too?
Yes. Yeah. So all my music is linked with, if you listen to Spotify or iTunes, Pandora, etc., etc. Again, all the links are there, and the YouTube channel and the memoirs up there now. I'm just, if anybody goes to download it, though, I am changing it on the regular until I actually announce it.
Because once again, you're wearing all the hats.
Wearing all those hats, yeah. Yes. It's a heavy head I'm wearing right now. Well, yeah, I'm blessed.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honour any time that I can sit and talk and just spread any awareness to mental health, the culture, Jesus, whatever it is. I just hope that I'm doing my thing.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Jana?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Thank you, Clare. We have really been looking forward to this, and we want you to stay in Nashville.
Yes,
you can visit Europe, but you're a Nashville girl now, okay?
Yes, I'll take it.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.